Welcome to the show, whether you're joining us via Australian Community Radio as Z Games or Australian Community TV as New Game Plus. This is definitely an entire show about video games, and we're going to be talking about them for the next little bit. My name is Jack. I'm not at all having a stroke in the studio in RMI TV, and I'm joined by Hope Corrigan.
Hi.
Hello again. And Cam Honey Swain.
Hello.
These beautiful people, we were at PAX together. We were doing a lot of PAX stuff, and so we're going to be talking about a lot of PAX. Cam, you're not going to be talking about PAX. You're going to be talking about Apple Arcade.
Yes,
it's so good. I love it.
Yeah.
Which games?
So Overland,
Yes.
Sayonara Wild Hearts, and What the Golf. I'm restricting myself.
Because there's so many games. There's so many games we could talk about. Like, oh man, What the Golf is like. Actually, I've been wanting to play that. I keep forgetting that I wanted to, and then I see it. I'm like, oh, that's so dumb.
It's insane. It's so dumb. I love it. It's the stupidest game I've ever played, and I don't want to stop.
Ever. It's a crippling addiction. And later on, Hope, you're going to be talking about the League of Legends card game.
Yeah, it's called League of Legends of Runeterra.
What a concept. Oh. But first, Hope, you also played a bunch of indies at PAX.
Yeah,
Talk to me about those.
For me, PAX is all about the indies, right?
PAX Rising is great.
That's the best thing about PAX, is playing all these cool games that people have made. So the three that I wanted to talk about was Espire 1, Death Hole, and WrestleDunk. Espire 1's really cool because it's a VR title, but it's an espionage game. So like you hack into this like stealthy robot, and then you go through the levels and like a very normal first-person shooter.
Okay.
But in VR.
Then how is it espionage? Are you like just sort of
You've got to be kind of stealthy.
Okay, right.
And the whole point is you're rescuing the robot, like the technology kind of thing. Like you want to get it out of this facility so that you can use it. But your weapons and things like that will be attached to your chest or your arms and things, so you can get them from the right place and reload them. And like I went from not being able to shoot anything effectively at all to using my tranq dart gun, which you pull back manually, and just shooting people in the head and taking them out completely. The cool thing about it is it's made by Australians. It's set in Australia. You wouldn't expect it.
It's set in Australia?
Yeah, so it's set in the Northern Territory in like an underground facility.
See you in the NT.
But the best is, so it means that when you're sneaking around, you'll be like, they might know you're there, and they're like, "Why? What's that?" Like, crikey.
And you hear the Australian accent, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, but they're all actual Australian voice actors, so even though it's kind of terrible, it's not as bad as it could be.
Okay, cool.
It's also got this new tech in it which narrows your field of vision where you're moving, so apparently even people who have a lot of issues playing in VR don't...
Like the motion sickness.
Yeah, they were telling me that they've had people that normally get terribly motion sick, but they've been able to play for 20 minutes plus without having any issues.
I was going to say, because this is a big part of their trailer that they dropped. It was like, no one gets motion sick playing this game. I'm like,
that sounds wrong. Yeah.
Like,
so
that doesn't add up.
The way it works is it narrows your field of vision and it shows you the box room that you're kind of in. So whenever you move, the game sort of shrinks in vision here, so you don't feel like you're moving totally in the game.
Okay.
You can turn that off or make it less if you don't have issues.
Cool.
But for people who do have issues, they can turn it right up so that their field of vision gets hell narrow, and then they don't have as many problems when they move around. They don't feel sick.
What were you playing it on?
I was playing it on, I want to say it was an Oculus.
Yeah, so it was a PC platform.
Correct.
Cool. You've got VR at home, yeah?
Yeah, I've got PSVR and I've played with the others. I got to play a different game there, and I played it on the Index, which is really cool. It's got finger tracking, so you can go like this and it knows what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish this one was on that, because then, when you're reloading the guns, or like one of the bigger guns, when you lock it into your arm,
You can be like really...
Yeah. Would have been cool.
Do jazz hands every time you hit someone.
Celebration!
Yeah.
Shoot someone, jazz hands.
So that was Aspire 1.
Yep. One of the other guns was Death Hole.
Cool.
This was made by pretty much one dude. His name's Jason. It's a platformer, and you run through hell, and it's incredibly difficult, but it's got this beautiful animation and chunky graphics to it. And the further you go without getting hit, you get, or like if you maintain speed, you get a higher multiplayer and all those kind of things.
Cool.
It's one of those games where it is incredibly difficult, but you know that it's your fault.
So it's very arcadey. It's by the sounds of it, yeah?
Yeah, so it's 2D. It's on iOS devices,
Cool.
so like you've got to be able to use
The touchscreen.
the touchscreen. You can use a controller, but I did it on the touchscreen. I didn't have a bad time because
Okay.
it's only left, right, and jump.
So there's not much that you can go wrong with that.
Correct,
Yeah.
but it's still incredibly tight in the platforming itself.
Okay.
So it's just really, really cleverly well done. And when I was talking to the guy who made it, he was like, yeah, I wish I'd made it on something that could only be, because it's only on these devices, like the kit that he used to develop it cannot be ported to anything else. You'd have to write it from the ground up.
No.
And I was like, man, I literally can't play this. I own nothing that could play this game, and I'd love to sit there for a couple of hours and really nut it out. And he's like, yep.
Sorry.
That's what everyone keeps telling me.
Maybe it'll come to Android one day
But
and I just make the whole game.
the
all over
really
again.
cool thing about it, like I said, it's iOS. It's like about $3 or something. Like,
Cool.
it's incredibly cheap. There are no microtransactions or anything like that. It's just a one-time fee, and you've got this game, and it's actually really good. So,
Good stuff. Speaking of good, Wrestle Dunk sport.
Wrestle Dunk.
Wrestle Dunk. So this is one of the least predictable things, because you're like, okay, cool, Matt Trobiani made Hacknet, cool. What's the follow-up? Sports games? What? Like...
When I knew that he was making a new game, I'm like, this guy's really good at what he does, but is what he does this? Because I didn't know that. And when you look at it, it looks like a stupid game.
It's really dumb.
It looks so dumb, because all your characters are just like Pong sticks.
Yep.
Just these little rectangle dudes, and you can kind of give them different outfits. Like, there was one that was like a bikini and abs, so I picked that
I'm
one
so into
because
that.
I had to represent my true inner self. And they've also got faces, but the faces are so brilliant. Like, if you're playing on a team, one of the modes was volleyball, and I accidentally spiked it into our side of the net, and the other character was like,
The expressions, like disappointment.
And the casters, there's like casters in the background, and you don't hear them, but you can see them.
Yeah, true.
And so, like, when you do something great, they lose their minds. They're like, whoa! And it's when you get into like draws and things like that, everything goes on fire. There was this
Normal. That's normally what happens.
There was this mode where you're playing. It's kind of like a version of Pong and Brick. So you got to shoot the ball from one end,
Like
and they've
breaker.
got bricks in the background. And you want to try to score points by getting it past the person and the brick into the area. And in the background, you can see this like square Earth. And then when we came to a draw, the Earth was on fire in the background, just floating there.
Topical.
Man.
It's really happening.
Timely. Well, I mean, I remember seeing it when it was not called Wrestle Dunk Sports. It was called something else at AFCON early this year. But like, I'm hoping to get an interview out with Matt about this, probably on YouTube, youtube.com/NoGamePlusTV, about what it was like kind of working on the game, being at PAX Rising, being at the PAX featured indies area
he was in
as
the
well.
showcase.
And yeah, like the fact that he's put so much time into like the programming of it.
It's
There's,
such
like,
a
time travel
polished
stuff
game.
happening with
It's so weirdly
feels good.
fantastic.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the best party games I've ever played.
Oof.
Ooh,
Yeah.
big call.
No.
After Untitled Goose Game, man,
That's
what
not a party game.
Oh, after a few drinks, that absolutely becomes a party game.
I am just the goose when I'm drunk.
Just stealing things
Yeah, just
around
go
the
around,
party.
hassle people, make
God.
problems for no reason.
I think it will cause problems.
Yeah.
That is a wrap on PAX Rising for this episode. We might be having more soon. Coming up in a moment, we're going to be talking Apple Arcade games because we have a crippling addiction. Back in a sec. Welcome back to the show. My name is Jack. I'm in studio with Hope and Cam at the RMIT Studios. Hello again, friends.
Hello.
Cam,
Yes.
First of all, how good is Apple Arcade?
I love
Apple
Apple
Arcade so much.
Arcade.
Oh, it's so good. I love it.
It's so nice, considering that it's been like,
Wow, sorry, us
about-
casual gamers.
we're triggering. But like after, iOS gaming has really struggled to find a foothold anywhere. And when they were talking about Apple doing a gaming kind of thing, you're like, oh, is that a good idea, Apple? Is that the best idea for you? And so when it launched, and it launched so hard, like it didn't have to go as hard as it did.
But they still didn't launch with
They still didn't launch with what they said they were going to launch
They
with.
gave us a number of like over
So-
70 games or something. And
Yeah, they launched with
definitely
52.
didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
feel
Pope
like
was like
they-
so disappointed.
I don't know, like you see a big company say something like that, you got to call them out when they don't do it, man.
Look, fair, but I also feel with launching with 52, I've barely gotten through any
How
of
dare
them.
you not crunch the hell out of your developers?
Oh my
The
God.
audacity.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, that's not, no.
But it's the
sorry.
thing, like
Not what
these
I want, by the way.
you get called out. You're
Oh,
cancelled. But like it's that thing where these are all the kind of games that you'd usually spend like $3.99, $7.99.
Yeah, they are premium games.
You would be like, oh, do I really need that? But because I've got the Apple Arcade, I could just be like, oh, well, I'll just get that one, and then I'll get that one, and then that one, and then that one.
It's an all-you-can-eat buffet, and then you walk out and you're like 5 kilos heavier, and you're like, I did it again.
So I wanted to talk about 3 of the ones that I've been kind of spending a lot of time with. And there were the 3 that kind of grabbed me right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And there was one, I feel like there was a premium game that Apple Arcade put out the front that everyone went, oh, which was Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Yes.
Now, this is developed by a Swedish team, Simogo?
I'll put it up on the screen somewhere, it's fine.
Yeah. And so this was something that I had noticed coming, I think at E3 they did a trailer.
Cool.
And it was coming to Nintendo Switch only. And I was like, okay, I'll probably get it when it comes out. But I don't pick up a lot of the indies on Switch right away. They're not like day one.
Do you prefer to play indies on like PS4 or PC or something?
No, I don't have a preference. It's just kind of, they're not a day one
He just doesn't want to give any
purchase.
money to those filthy indies.
I actually looked through my library the other night. I'm like, I own too many indies that I've never played. So I need to go back and go through them.
Yeah.
So when they announced it with that, I was like, this is awesome.
Sick.
This is fantastic. So I jumped on. I originally did it on my phone because originally it launched on the phone. It was going to be 2 weeks till it launched on the iPad.
Yeah.
But then I got smart and I got the beta on the iPad so I could play it.
And it was all
earlier.
good and everything was fantastic, yeah.
But so on the phone I was doing it with the touch, the touch screen.
Yep.
And it's like a endless runner, but it's so stylistic. And it's
Style for miles. Yeah.
style out the
Out the window.
window. That's a word.
There we go.
And so it was this thing that grabbed me by its style and its music. And it's essentially the easiest way to describe it is that it's like an interactive kind of visual album. Like it's a playable album.
Yes.
Like this music is the key focus of this game. And so then you have these kind of really easy to decipher action moments to play through. Nothing's ever it's not that much of a struggle, but you can try to get those high scores and you can really fight to do it.
My frustration is that it feels a little bit loose in the movement specifically. Like the QuickTime events are like, look, they feel well timed, they feel good to interact with, but the moment it's like, I need to move to get, because you've played some of this, Hope, as well?
I've just watched it.
I think moving when you're trying to pick up a lot of the collectibles on the track, I'm like, there's no, like in a lot of endless runners on mobile, it's like you have 3 lanes. In this, it's all like, it's an analog movement, and I'm like, I can't tell because the camera angle is constantly changing as well.
See, that was the big thing. When I first started, and I'm using the iPhone to do it, lots of trouble,
Not
really
great.
struggled.
Yeah.
Then I realized that they've now also set up that you can connect your PlayStation or your Xbox controller directly to your iPad or iPhone.
For real gamers.
Insane. That like blew my mind that I could do that. And so I got my Xbox controller, hooked it up to my iPad and played it on there, and all of a sudden the experience was a million times better. The touchscreen is probably not the best thing for it, but having the controller, going through it, I've become addicted to the music. I play it every second day, even though I've finished it. I love it. I love it so much. It's so good.
Give me a quick rundown on 2 of the other games that you've been playing lately.
Overland, really cool. Top-down grid strategy. A little bit XCOM-ish.
XCOM looks.
But again, pared back, really pared back. You have your survivors, you're moving from area to area. It is bare bones. It's the kind of game that goes, you will fail. And you will lose people in your team, and you have to be prepared for that. So it's more of like
I love being reminded of that outside of my own life.
Yeah, I was like life. Cool.
But
Welcome to New Game Plus.
And you can have a dog that can wield a knife. So
that's all I care about.
yeah.
Oh, well,
my team was essentially 1 human and then 4 dogs that followed her around and protected her.
So it's pared back. Is it
Really stylistic again.
Is it sort of like hitting the right line of pared back to the point where it's easy enough, accessible enough on a mobile device or on an iPad, but not too has it hit the mark well?
Yes, I think it's definitely designed for a kind of touchscreen kind of situation. I think it's perfect for the iPad and the iPhone, and I know that it is also on PC and Switch. It's released on as well. Okay. I can imagine it.
So you've got
transports
your options open there.
Exactly.
Cool.
And the last one is What the Golf, which is a stupid game, and it's amazing.
I love it.
So What the Golf is essentially is what if we took games, puns, and turned them into a game. It is every pun under the sun. And it's the interesting thing that it comes out at the same time as Borderlands 3, where I feel like humor landed so poorly. This is
Calling it humor was a stretch.
Well, this is humor in a game that works.
Yeah, good.
Because it's stupid humor without it being referential or edgy or anything like that.
Something I really enjoyed with What the Golf is one of the first levels, you do the thing and you you hit the golf ball.
Yep.
Then the next level you do the same thing, but it's you that goes.
Yeah,
And then the
that's
next
the favorite
level
one,
you do the same thing, it's your health bar or something
Yeah.
else stupid, like every time.
Your mortality out the
Exactly.
window.
So it's essentially it's a golf simulator, but stupid. And like
Perfect.
sometimes you'll be a soccer ball, and sometimes you'll be a bicycle, and sometimes you're a house, and sometimes you're all the balls. Like, and there's 20 balls that you're shooting through. There's an entire
Multi-ball!
D's
entire
nuts level,
stage
it's great.
where it's actually super hot. And when you finish the level,
I
it
love
goes
that.
super putt. Super putt. Like, there's a whole section where it's portals. Like, it's so interesting and does so many different things, and it does them all well.
Does that one work on mobile as well?
Yeah.
Like
yeah, yeah.
on the phone, it actually plays well?
I found I did it with controller for a little bit,
Yep.
and then I eventually switched back to doing just touch, because once you learn the kind of the feel for it, it's much easier to kind of use the touch controller on those things.
Cool.
The actual controller itself was a bit too, you either hit it not at all or way too much.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So what the golf works well on a phone. Like, let's say that you're on the train in, right?
Yep.
You're lucky enough to get a seat on Metro. And
Topical.
you guys are on the end of the line. Whatever, screw you.
Current affair.
Coming up.
For hours.
What the golf works well on a mobile device, as long as you can hold it horizontally. How do you
No, it does vertical.
Ooh,
for
it does
most of
vertical. That's exciting. I like
so
that a lot.
it'll occasionally switch it to horizontal, but for the most part, you play it in portrait.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sayonara Wild Hearts, probably get a gamepad, and if you got an iPad, go for that.
Yes, I'd say if you're looking for something to play on the train, I am still playing What the Golf on the Train because it has like daily challenges
And
you can
Outlanders?
do. Outlander is something that I think you need to take a moment.
Yeah.
You don't want too much around you to
Okay.
distract you. You want to be able to look at it because as soon as I was playing it in public, I was dying a lot.
Oh, okay, fair. Cool. Well, I mean, not cool, but
Sure,
you tried.
blame the public.
Yeah, well, I usually do.
You're at the end of the line. By the time you get into town, it is pretty busy.
The Vox Populi must pay.
Ooh, the riffraff.
Coming up, you're talking about a League of Legends card game, which is a really weird thing to think about, but that's coming up. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. My name's Jack, hanging out in the RMITV studio with Hope. Hello.
Hi.
And Cam.
Hi.
Hope. We have come out of PAX recently, and there is now not only a League of Legends video game that exists by itself, and that's all Riot's done for a decade. Now they have how many games?
They announced so many things. They're doing
5?
I think.
There's an FPS.
Yes, FPS.
There's more modes for the general League of Legends game.
Which is also on mobile now.
Yep.
Which they said they'll never do.
Yeah, but
there's the card game.
There's the card game.
They've got a doco coming.
Yeah, and an animated series, which
series.
I'm actually very excited for.
And the fighting game.
And the fighting game, the 2D fighting game.
Yeah.
Basically,
I want more music videos.
Riot's come in and been like, esports, roar!
Imagine if they did a KDA simulator where you had to manage the band. I'd be down for that.
Oh, I'd be so incredibly down for that.
Or a
Oh,
rhythm
God.
game.
Legit, more
They
music
would
like
be great
KDA.
game.
Just make KDA a permanent
Just make
thing.
more of it. It's almost like they did a full AR scene at some concert. It was weird. Anyway, there is a card game now.
So the card game's the one that I've actually been hands-on with.
Right.
So I've played it. I played it at PAX in a closed-door session. I went in and it was all this security, and I was like, "What you announcing at PAX? Nothing." And then there was something, and I was really surprised. Turns out I was wrong. So it's kind of it takes a lot from a bunch of different other digital card games. But it isn't exactly like one. I think similar-ish to Hearthstone.
I mean,
in
it's
some
probably
ways.
good that it's not exactly the same.
I
as
know,
another.
but it's usually you're like, oh, this card game is like Magic the Gathering, or
These
the
are the
Elder
bones.
Scrolls card game, and you're like, oh, it's the same as Hearthstone, except now they have fields.
yeah.
Awesome.
Whereas this one, I don't feel like it's as easy to be like it's this, but like this.
Okay, good.
So there's several regions in Runeterra, and they seem to act kind of like classes or colors.
Cool.
And then you've also got your legend cards, your champions, and they'll have abilities that you can level up. And you can only have so many of those depending on what kind of deck you're playing, what kind of
Are those abilities
mode?
ones that you level up in a match or
in a match.
Okay, right.
So there's nothing that you don't keep any level up abilities for a later.
persistent,
Yeah,
yeah.
correct. It's just as you play as you go, and so it might be that one card maybe has you have to target this many enemies,
Cool.
and once you've done that, it levels up and it takes up the whole screen and it does this big thing now I am the champion, and
Cool.
Yeah, it's an incredibly visual card game.
Okay, cool.
Like, it goes extra on everything. Like, an attack looks way bigger than it does in anything else. It's going
And
hard.
then you just see like the single digit attack number, you're like, okay.
Yeah, correct. It's like, and then it's like,
4.
But at the same time, I'm here for the drama. If I didn't have that, I'd just play a real life card game.
It's incredibly dramatic and very pretty. The card art is beautiful. Like, you expect that in digital card games,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it actually is genuinely stunning.
Especially from a company that's like made their bread on having a very visually stunning game for the
Yeah,
last 10 years.
well, that's why I'm excited about these new IPs, because I'm not much of a MOBA person. I don't really enjoy playing those games, but having other games in an animated series gets me a chance to get into this world and explore it in a new way.
I was brought in purely by one of their music videos, and then I'm like, oh, I guess I'll try it out.
I guess I'll give it a
And then you
go.
actually played it and you're like, this is crap.
No, I am.
What's
crap,
a lane?
But it's still good.
Oh yeah. Stop feeding, and you're like, I'm not eating right now. What are you talking about? Like on the
I'm bad at jungle. I can
But
only
the
bottom.
card
I don't know what that
game,
means. You can only bottom. I don't want to know. Anyway,
Wayne, how dare you?
you can't bottom deck.
I don't know, man.
It's-
League of Legends. What does it mean? Go on.
So then you got these champions, and if you can try to get another one whose ability might sort of coincide, like one might be they might evolve when they target, and another one might level up when enough enemies are damaged, then you can level them both up at the same time, or you can go for 2 totally different and then have different strategies in play. So it looks like it's going to be a really good one for people who like to build decks and play with the meta behind it. Riot have also promised that they're going to be doing monthly updates to keep the meta shifting.
Cool.
Which is really important, because otherwise you just play the same decks all the time. That was the biggest thing with Hearthstone.
I will say as well, Hearthstone has, like, a lot of people come into Hearthstone and they're like, okay, cool, I'll start with the starter decks and then I'll get a little bit more. But at a certain point, you're like, I got to start paying for decks. That's not here.
This is really interesting, their method. So you will never be able to buy random packs of cards. What you can do is there are a limited amount of what they call wild cards that you can purchase every time.
Right.
For real money, and that's a set price, and you basically pay X dollars for a common, and that can be redeemed for any common card you want. X price for, But you're very limited on how many you can do of this, because they don't want people paying to get the cards.
Yeah.
The main way you want to get your cards is through doing things in the game.
So like sort of quests that you would get in Hearthstone?
I think it might be similar.
Right.
They've been emphasizing that no matter how you want to play, you will be able to earn cards.
Okay.
So I get the feeling that there are going to be different options that you can go for. So some people might want to play a lot of ranked, and maybe that's how they earn their cards. And you essentially level up this chest that you get to unlock at the end of the week. And depending on how much you've done, you'll find out how much you get in that chest.
Okay.
But you cannot spend your hard-earned real cash on random packs.
Which is one of the barriers that I felt going into Hearthstone. When I
Yeah,
was like,
same.
I get this, and then I went into the real world. I'm like, oh, I can't afford to get as many cards as some of these people have.
My only concern with it, like generally it sounds like a good model, but there's that worry for me that unless you're an incredibly hardcore player, you may not have any cards, like compared to other people.
Because it
you,
asks you to come back regularly,
Yeah.
get all quests done.
But I mean, usually with these kind of games, even in Hearthstone, you could make a fairly competent deck out of your base rate cards.
That's true, because I think if we look at some of the other games that have microtransactions as an option, such as things like Overwatch, I work full time on my day job, and so I can sometimes afford to grab one of those packs during an event. And so if I'm like, oh, I've been really time poor and I haven't been able to play as much this event, I can grab them if I need
I
them.
just really want this
But if
outfit. I
that's
just want
just-
this outfit, guys.
Yeah.
Dude,
if
have you
that's suddenly
seen
off the
Witch
table-
Mercy? Whew. Anyway,
Glad that was good for you.
I got that off my chest.
But League of Legends, card game, something of Runeterra?
Legends of Runeterra. There's a couple other differences in it. Like the rounds play out differently. It's not just you'll be the attacker and they'll be the
their
defender, and then you sort of once you both pass, then that swaps over. So there are
Okay.
multiple turns within rounds, which is also different.
So it's looking like it has enough points of difference
I
from
think
a lot of the
so.
other card games, and it's visually quite striking.
It's visually very beautiful. It's going to have the fan base from LoL.
Yeah, true.
I think it can compete.
What is it launching on, or what did you play on?
I played on PC. It's going to launch in 2020 on PC and mobile.
Cool.
They're doing a couple of betas before then, so you can
Right.
register on the website to try to get into
Launching
that.
on mobile is just the right
It makes a lot of sense because it's quite physical.
And it's got that
to
drag and
interact
drop
with.
side
exactly.
Yeah.
of style of play. It'll work just fine.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds good. I mean, sounds good, but also like I watch KDA and I'm like maybe LOL, and then I'm like maybe not.
Yeah.
I hate the name. Runeterra.
Legends of Runeterra. I don't mind. It's very fantasy. It's
Legends
very
of the Guardians, Owls of Gahul.
look. It's very wide, but I
that.
also just moved to Melbourne, so like this is kind of what I signed up for.
This was exciting with things happening in Melbourne a lot with these kind of spaces to be playing.
Yeah.
This. Like, it's coming out at a good time for us.
Yeah, true. When the entire industry is on the down. Anyway, it's fine. That is pretty much it for this week on the show. If people want to find out more about you guys or where they can find you, Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, I'm mostly on Twitter. You can find me at Hope_Corrigan. It's just my boring old name.
That's a name.
I'm on Twitter, and I am just starting my first slot of streaming. So on Twitch, which is _romance. It's an anagram of Cameron. And then also, if people are interested, I also have Checkpoint on Joy 94.9, which is a radio station. And we are on Saturdays 2 to 4. And you can find us at Checkpoint AU on Twitter and Instagram, or Checkpoint on Joy 94.9 on Facebook.
Good stuff. That's pretty much it for this week on the show. If you want to find more New Game Plus in your life, newgameplus.tv is the website. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, literally everything. Almost. / New Game Plus TV. And if you want more podcasting, Zed Games is also around. zgamesau.net is the website, and you can find Zed Games on iTunes and Spotify. But for now, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.